Centrelink would be shut down for fraud for its conduct in the recent botched debt recovery efforts if it were a private company. Now that's according to the Commonwealth's former digital government chief. Paul Shelter says Australians should be outraged the government can't deliver efficient online services. He was handpicked to head the agency aimed at streamlining government digital service delivery, but resigned from the role after just 6 months. Paul Shelter is here with me in the studio. Paul, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Can I first of all ask you why you resigned from that position after just 6 months?
I was actually 16 months, actually.
16 months,
yeah,
right.
16 months, wasn't just 6. We had established a track record of delivery, and delivery is what I'm all about. When I was interviewing for the role, and in all previous roles, and all the way throughout my entire tenure at DTO, I said, you can't separate policy from delivery. You must deliver. And in fact, if you ever hear anything about me, I'm always talking about delivery. Under the new Minister Taylor, there has been a shift in emphasis away from delivery, much more towards pure policy and pure governance. And I don't believe in that. I don't think that's actually worked for Australia in the past, and I don't want to be part of that.
What were some of the reasons you think meant that that wasn't being delivered?
Well, it was just, it's obvious that's what's happening, right? We're actually moving away from delivery. We're defunding programs and so on and so forth.
So when you heard about this issue with Centrelink and the debt recovery, were you surprised?
I wasn't exactly surprised because we've had a whole string of these things so far in Australia. I was very disappointed, to be honest with you, because I'd spent 16 months of my life trying to fix these things and trying to make them better. And to see this repeated pattern, I felt was a little bit discouraging. So when I was asked my opinion on, somebody asked me, and I told them what it was.
What are some of those, the string of things you say? Give us some examples.
You can think about MyGov failures, you can think about other DHS failures, you can think about the census fail, you can think about the 3-day ATO fail, and then this. Now some of those are just sort of when computers fall over, right? You know, just completely just crashing, which again is astonishing in this day and age, considering how much money we're paying for government IT, that even happens. When was the last time Google fell over for 3 days, or Facebook, or Apple for 3 days? It just doesn't happen. Census fail is a bit different. Census fail, a lot of the same root causes, but the system didn't fall over. It kept on going on its merry way with a flawed algorithm matching data sets that are actually incommensurate, trying to make extrapolations that you can't necessarily make, and ultimately victimizing a lot of people who shouldn't have been victimized.
As you say, the internet always isn't 100% reliable, and the government's operating with such huge numbers of people, particularly with something like census fail. So of course there would be some times when there would be failures of the internet.
I think you need to keep in mind actually how big is government. We in government like to talk about how big we are, and I often heard when I was in government, oh Paul, you don't understand. If only you understood how big our load is. Government transaction volume is about that of a small to medium-sized bank. Most people don't have regular transactions with government. It's not an awful lot going on. Or to put it another way, you know, the yearly volume of government transactions is about half an hour on Twitter. We're not talking big transaction volumes, nor is the complexity that we find in government sort of externally imposed. It's stuff which we create through legislation, through policy, and through the behavior of bureaucrats in Canberra.
So what do you think could be done differently to avoid these kinds of situations?
3 big things. I think first off, we need to have radical upskilling of the public service so the public service can feel comfortable with 21st century technology, the same technology that we're asking every startup in Australia to use. Government should be able to use state-of-the-art technology. It's outrageous that we can't. Secondly, government needs to start putting the needs of its users first. The Centrelink case is a very clear case where government put its own needs for debt collection above the needs of the actual users and burdened them with actually having to prove their innocence, even knowing that the algorithm was flawed in 20% of the cases, which is madness. Thirdly, you have to get rid of this, I think, anomalous, very strange split between policy and delivery in the Australian government, where you have a department, say DSS, dreams up a policy, hands it over to DHS, says, DHS, you implement this thing, and then everybody can say, well, guess what, you know, the policy was great, but the implementation was poor, or, wow, my implementation would have been great, but the policy was rubbish. You can't do that. You've got to get rid of that split. The other way is you have no way of knowing actually what is the effect of the policy on the lives of the people who are actually seeing it.
All right, Paul Shelter, really appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.